I guess it's time to start. Very good. Before I dismiss you today, after I dismiss you today, wait until the end to be dismissed. I want you to please take all of the chairs and desks and line them up against the walls at the end. The chairs, the folding chairs could be stacked if you could do that, please. We have a competition in here this afternoon, and maintenance is short-staffed, so I could really appreciate your help if you would do that. Folding chairs can be folded and stacked, and then the other ones can be moved to the sides. But that's after you are dismissed. Today's convocation is Bethel College's Black History, and it's sponsored by Bethel College Community for Justice and Peace. Each of the presenters will be introducing themselves, but I will introduce the first one, at least by name, and she will come up and start things rolling. That's Alejandra Martinez. Welcome to the platform.
Hello, everybody. Okay. My name is Alejandra Martinez, like he said, and I will be reading this poem in place of Leah Palmer, who cannot be here due to track. This poem is called Praise Song for the Day by Elizabeth Alexander. She presented it at Barack Obama's presidential inauguration. Each day, we go about our business, walking past each other, catching each other's eyes or not, about to speak or speaking. All about us is noise. All about us is noise and bramble, thorn and din, each one of our ancestors on our tongues. Someone is stitching up a hem, darning a hole in a uniform, patching a tire, repairing the things in need of repair. Someone is trying to make music somewhere with a pair of wooden spoons on an oil drum, with cello, boombox, harmonica, voice. A woman and her son wait for the bus. A farmer considers the changing sky. A teacher says, "Take out your pencils, begin." We encounter each other in words, words spiny or smooth, whispered or declaimed, words to consider, reconsider. We cross dirt roads and highways that mark the will of someone and then others who said, "I need to see what's on the other side. I know there's something better down the road. We need to find a place where we are safe. We walk into that which we cannot yet see. Say it plain, that many have died for this day. Sing the names of the dead who brought us here, who laid the train tracks, raised the bridges, picked the cotton and the lettuce, built brick by brick the glittering edifices they would then keep clean and work inside of. Praise song for struggle, praise song for the day, praise song for every hand-lettered sign, the figuring it out at kitchen tables. Some live by love thy neighbor as thyself, others by first do no harm or take no more than you need. What if the mightiest word is love? Love beyond marital, filial, national, love that casts a widening pool of light. Love with no need to preempt grievance. In today's sharp sparkle, this winter air, anything can be made, any sentence begun. On the brink, on the brim, on the cusp. Praise song for walking forward in that light. And now I will be presenting Sam Wilson.
Good morning, everyone. This presentation is brought by the new club called Bethel College's Community for Justice and Peace, where we want to push for change where it is needed and help create a more equitable and inclusive environment on campus. And the first thing I want to talk about before we get into this is one of the first things we did do as a group was participate in a racial healing circle offered by the newly formed Truth, Racial Healing, and Transformation Campus Center initiative set at Bethel College. If you're interested in participating, contact any member of the THRT team. And today, I'm going to be talking a little bit about Bethel's Black history and how deep it goes. This presentation is labeled an introduction, however, because I think this can end up being something way bigger than what we had to present today. And the fact is that there is no single document that compiles the totality of Black history at Bethel, so this could definitely be the beginning of a bigger project and whatever could come of this. And just reflecting on what we researched before we get into it a little bit, it was just fairly interesting to see how deep and rich the history that already exists on campus is. And it was refreshing to hear about how others who have been here in the past also look to push for change in the same areas that we occupy now. And with that being said, let's get right into it. So everyone's heard the story about how Bethel was founded in 1887 by Mennonites, but one thing that is overlooked is the construction of the building. The old building was originally the whole college. Everything from class to dorms all occurred within the space, which is honestly kind of surprising because seeing what that building's used for now, it's pretty tight in there. What's interesting though is that the construction of this building involved a Black man. His name was Patrick Rickman. You can see his picture here above. And he was a local stonemason who ran his own company and also had worked on other projects in Newton as well. Now, whether those other buildings are still standing, I'm not too sure of, but he did do a lot of the local brickwork at the time in those late 1800s. And he helped work on the ad building from approximately 1887 to 1893. And although he did not attend this college, we do have some documentation that says he has family and descendants that attended and went through this Bethel system as well. We don't necessarily have too much information on that, but we do know that he has family that's gone through here. And the next thing I want to talk about is just kind of some of the, statistics for the population at Bethel for the African American population. And what we do know is at some point between 1920 and 1930, the first African American or Black student did attend Bethel College. We don't really have much information on that, a name or anything like that, but we do know it happened at some point within this time period. And then around 1957, approximately 6 Black students were attending this college. There's more concrete documentation on that at least. And yeah, by the time it was the late 60s, Black enrollment was about 10% of student population out of about 156 people, so around 15, 16 students at the time. And within the next decade, it stays around 10%. One thing that was brought up within the mid-70s was that Black student retention seemed to be a bit of a, problem. From the span of 1975 to 1978, there was about 36 Black students that had essentially gone here, enrolled, done one semester, and left. What could have caused that, we're not too sure of, but that was a thing. And then just going into the 80s, 90s, it's around the same 10% as campus population in total grows, but that 10% still stays about the same. And then just in the modern day, Bethel's African American student population is about 19%. And then the next thing I'd like to talk about is some of the different organizations and some of the work that has been done on campus by minorities. And the first thing I'm going to talk about is the Black Student Union. One of the things they pushed for was trying to become a chapter of the NAACP. Whether that actually occurred or not, there's not really any definitive proof, but we do know that they had meetings like that at the time. And another thing that occurred was there was a Black Student Union conference that actually occurred within the state of Kansas in general. And this is everywhere from like schools as small as like here at Bethel to K-State, where all of these schools in the state of Kansas kind of sent out representatives to essentially discuss issues about and experiences existing on these different campus spaces as Black students. And that happened back in the 70s and 80s. Another thing that happened was with the Associated Colleges of Central Kansas, they also hosted a workshop for minority students in general. This would feature things such as guest speakers, talent shows, worship services, and other opportunities to share and learn. And this is like more so Bethel, Tabor, all of these kind of more local schools. And the next thing we're going to talk about is the Minority Cultural Center, which is, so if you're looking at the Fine Arts Center and you're going down that road, like past the Agape Center, past Kip Corps, it is that house that is next to Kip Corps. And what this building was used for, it had a lot of different purposes, but it was essentially a place that was designed for black students where they could have their own space. Everyone was welcome, obviously, but it was mainly occupied by black students at the times. And the second floor was used for people as a living space, whether it be the Minority Cultural Center director or married students. Guest speakers would stay here at times as well. And yeah, this group essentially was a group of minorities who utilized their platform to provide different spaces and highlight the different cultures at Bethel. And it served as a building for social activities, a study hall, and a library of black literature on campus. Students also lived in this house, such as George Rogers, who we'll get into a bit later. And the next thing I'd like to do is highlight a couple of important alumni in Bethel's Black history as well. The first person I'd like to bring to light is this lady named Reverend Faith Allen from Bethel's class of 78. And at her time, her contributions to campus was writing for the student-run minority newspaper that Denzel is going to be talking about a little bit later. She also helped found the African American Alumni Association for Bethel that still makes contributions to campus in the modern day, such as at Fall Fest. They're the guys that run the Hot Links booth every year. Her post-undergrad work led to getting a Doctor of Ministry, and she wanted to become a preacher for multiple churches, from St. John Christian's Methodist Episcopal Church, say that 3 times, and she was the first woman to be put in this role. And later in her career, Allen became the 20th pastor of the Carter Metropolitan CME Church in Detroit, where she was the 20th person and the first woman to do so as well. And recently, in 2021, however, she is one of the first black women to be part of Bethel's board of directors. And the next lady I'd like to talk about is Cynthia Doyle Perkins, who is actually a Newton native, and she is part of Bethel's class of 78. While attending here, she studied health, physical education, and recreation. While attending Bethel, she participated in volleyball and track while being an All-American at both sports, while going on to be inducted into Bethel's Hall of Fame eventually. And she also played basketball while attending the school. After her time at Bethel, she completed a master's in guidance and counseling and used that to work as a guidance counselor and eventual administrator in multiple school systems. And she currently serves as an administrator in the Metropolitan School District Pike Township Schools in Indianapolis, Indiana. She also held a position within University Interscholastic League, which oversees academic, athletic, and fine arts competition between schools, and she was the first woman to work in this role as well. And some of her contributions to Bethel is that she is one of the founders of the African American Alumni Association as well, and was also one of the first black women to serve on Bethel's board of directors as well. And I'd like to introduce Denzel Dixon, who's going to be speaking next a little bit more about that newspaper.
All right, how y'all doing today? My name is Denzel Dixon. I'm a sophomore here at Bethel College, and today I'm going to be talking to y'all about the Minority Journal that was written here a few decades ago at Bethel College. Just to give you a little overview of what the newspaper was about, this was a way for students of color to express their feelings toward the school and give current events such as sports segments, poems, and other important student information that was going on throughout Bethel College. And to start off, as Sam stated earlier, Ms. Faith Allen actually wrote an editorial here called "Why Do I Stay Here Indeed" in 1977, and it goes just like this. During my 3 years here at Bethel, I have several times been confronted with the question, why did I come here? I feel that is a question I can answer rather easily. The question that I find hardest is, why do I stay? The reason why I stay at Bethel, and I don't mean to sound conceited, is to make it better. Without us coming to Bethel, there would be no other way to show how much blacks have to offer in the making of the worlds, and yes, in the makings of Bethel College. There are many injustices on this campus concerning blacks, and when one complains about them, the question asked is, if you don't like it, then why don't you leave? I'm not going to leave because it makes it too easy for you, meaning Bethel. In other words, you are saying if there's a problem, get rid of it rather than deal with it. Sometimes I get the feeling that some people on this campus think we don't belong here, and my answer to that is we have just as much right to be here as anyone else. Why do I stay here? Indeed, I have to. This place needs me. And in that same year, in Volume 1, Number 4 of the Journal in 1977, there was also a guest speaker by the name of Dr. Bernard Lafayette, who was also an activist during this time. And he touched on the topic of racism and what it meant in society during this time and how it could be prevented here at Bethel College. And he described racism as an evil seed that grew through ignorance, but not accidental ignorance, it's deliberate ignorance, meaning that people didn't really take the time to understand different cultures that weren't the same as theirs. And this caused a lot of disrespect throughout society during this time, just due to the color or your different race. And he also made a good point about racism being a disease. And the first step to trying to prevent a disease from happening is to try to stop it early. And he described this as a preventative medicine, meaning not instilling hatred in the younger generation just because another person that may be different from them or have different colored skin didn't grow up in the same culture as them. And the second step is after the disease has been contracted, and that's understanding. Understanding is being able to empathize with other people of other cultures and just having an open heart towards them. And defeating the disease is the last step, and this is execution. This is where you put step 1 and step 2 into play, and you actually display your understanding towards other cultures, and you don't have a bad taste in your mouth about anybody who doesn't come from the same culture as you. And also, through my research, I came up with my own kind of root of the problem in society during this time and here at Bethel College during this time, and it was the lack of love that was in society. And this caused for people not wanting to understand each other and, like I said earlier, instilling this hatred at young ages. But the real question is, why couldn't we just truly, love and accept each other? And I came up with a few definitions for love, 4 definitions actually. And love equals unselfishness, it equals togetherness, family, and inequality. And I feel like with these 4 things, this would have made society just flow a lot better during this time. It would have got rid of all the unnecessary feelings that Faith Allen had about feeling unwanted here on campus at times, and just for others in society as well. And I had a Bible verse that actually connected with my speech today, and it was 1 Corinthians 13, 4-7. And it says, "Love is patient and kind. It is not jealous or conceited or proud. Love is not ill-mannered or selfish or irritable. Love does not keep record of wrongs. Love is not happy with evil, but is happy with the truth. Love never gives up, and its faith, hope, and patience never fails." So I feel like during this time, man, if we just had love, and love was just displayed throughout society, it would have brought us together, and we wouldn't have to even have the discussion of what racism really is, because it wouldn't have existed if love was just the root of everything. So next I'm going to be introducing Taj, and he's going to be talking to you guys about a real influential figure here. His name was Mr. George Rogers. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I hope you all are doing good on this fine Friday. So first off, I want to mention there was an article that I read, an issue article I read from Around the Green. It was published in winter of 2020, so if you guys go online, you could probably find it. It's pretty easily accessible. And it was written by Bethel College. And in the article, at the end, they talk about how you cannot tell the story of the Boston Celtics without mentioning the greatness of Bill Russell, or even like the San Francisco Giants, which is a professional baseball team, if some of you don't know, and one of their greatest players was Willie Mays. And they said all that to tie into the fact that you can't really tell the story of Bethel College without mentioning George Rogers and the impact he had on this campus. So George Rogers was a very influential black figure, very influential black figure in not just the history of Bethel College, but as well as the black history of Bethel College. He came to Bethel College from Wilson City College in Chicago in the year 1967. And what really happened was he was influenced by his friend, the late Mike Burnett, who also attended Bethel College. Mike knew that George's dad wanted him to get out and go to college and get a degree, and George was like, I just want to play football, man. So Mike told him, hey, like, this would be a great opportunity for you to do both of those things and like get a taste of somewhere other than Chicago, because they were both from Chicago. He was like, get out of the city, get a little bit of the country life, see how these folks live out here, that kinds of stuff. So after talking back and forth with Mike, he was like, you know what, I might just check it out, like try it out or whatever. So initially upon arriving here, George realized that there was a great opportunity for integration here at Bethel College. He met a lot of friendly people when he initially came here. He said he had a great time here. While attending Bethel, he played football, obviously, because that's what he really wanted to do. And he was also a member of the Working Court Governing Council. And basically what they did was, Working Court at the time was like a newly built residence hall. So they basically oversaw the hall and made sure everything was going according to plan, that kinds of stuff. So, you could think of him as like somebody that wasn't just a football player, but also kind of like a CA in a sense, if that makes sense to you guys. But he graduated 2 years later, because like I said, he attended Wilson City College at first. So he wasn't a freshman when he came in. He had a little bit of a college experience. But when he graduated in the year 1969. And after graduation, he decided to stick around because he felt that there was an opportunity here at Bethel College. Having only spent 2 years, he felt like there was opportunity for him to help the college not just grow as a college, but help himself grow as an individual. And he felt like there was a legacy to be made here at Bethel College. So he stuck around. He was a football coach. He coached defense. So, President John Gearing played for him, so he probably has a couple good stories about playing under Coach Jolly. He was also the head coach for men and women's track and field. He was also the athletic director at one point, and before he decided to retire, he was the dean of students from 1992 to 1998. He was also a member of the Bethel College Board of Directors. He recently retired from that. Old age catches up to you. Want to just sit down and just chillax and enjoy the rest of your life. But he felt like he had a very good personal connection with a lot of the students here, even after graduating, and he said that's really what kept him around as long as he stayed. And a lot of you may not know, but like during his time when he was a student here, he said women's sports was not really a big thing. So that was something he really helped push for, to advocate that women get their opportunity to show their athletic ability, not just to show that they're not just students, but they can be athletes just as much as men can. So that was something that was big for him when he continued to stay here. And like Sam mentioned earlier, this is not a very extensive research. This is something very light. This is something we would like to continue in years to come, and talk a lot more about a lot more important figures that have passed through Bethel College, black figures that passed through Bethel College and had an impact on Bethel College. And I feel like George Rogers was one of them that we should highlight today. And I want to close by saying that, for students of color on Bethel College campus, we might not be here today in the position that we are if not for the impact of George Rogers and the things that he did for Bethel College while he was here. But next, I want to talk to you guys about some famous visitors we had here on campus. And the first one, Martin Luther King. Most of you know who Martin Luther King is. He came and gave a speech here in 1960. Dick Gregory was an activist and comedian who also came and gave a speech here on campus. James Lawson, he worked with Martin Luther King during the civil rights movement, so he would have came here around the same time, and then he also came back in 2000 and gave a speech of his own. Vincent Harding, I don't have much information on Vincent Harding, but he also came and gave a speech in 2017. I don't think any of us would have been here for the most part, so probably don't remember that. Leonard Pitts, a lot of you might actually know Leonard Pitts because he was here last year. He is an author and columnist that gave speeches on behalf of Kip Cor's Peace Lecture Series. So those were really good if you did get a chance to see those. We also had Sonia Sanchez. She is a founder of one of the first Black Studies departments at the San Francisco State University. She is also a poet and a drama professor now. So, if you have time, you can check up on her if that kind of stuff interests you. Samite of Uganda, whose full name is actually Samite. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. I think it's Samite Malondo is his full name, but he is a musician and he came to Bethel College in 2002, and he talked about his music and even performed it, and it was titled African Music, Mortals Walk but the Gods Dance. And then Jesse Owens, everybody knows who Jesse Owens is. He's a famous African-American Olympian. But next I want to reintroduce Sam to close us off today and talk a little bit about some pictures that we found.
All right, so last thing we just want to show here is just these are a few of the pictures that picture Black students in different organizations, social settings, and graduation that Leah picked out that she thought we needed to see. And yeah, just take it in for a moment. Okay. And all right, we'd just like to thank a few people for making this possible. First, thank you to Bethel's library staff and John Thiessen for helping us access all these resources. They were very helpful in this process throughout identifying different things that we should look at in the archives, just getting information. I'd like to thank my mom, Cheryl Wilson, for all her help throughout this. She advised us throughout this process, helped us revise this presentation, so on and so forth. I'd like to thank Taj, Josue, Leah, Alejandra, and all the other CAJP members who helped. They helped research, some of them spoke. And just thank you to George Rogers for allowing us to pick his brain and get all of this information. Thank you. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to come forward now.
I know some colleges have like barbers on campus. Do you know if Bethel has ever had like anything like that? And if they have had someone that can actually cut black hair, because I know that is not a common thing in a lot of schools, especially in this area.
And what's your question for barbers?
Yeah.
I don't think there's been any like official like school barb or anything like that at any point. As far as our research goes, yeah, I guess that's something to look into as well. I'd be curious about that.
Hi, I actually personally grew up with George Rogers. He worked for my grandfather, and I was just wondering how he impacted like your guys' life directly.
Could you repeat that question one more time?
Yeah.
How did he impact your guys' life? Like, how do you feel he impacted your life directly?
How did George Rogers impact us?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, we hadn't really known him, I guess, until we started this project, but as far as I'm concerned, he just came across as a very influential figure. He was great to talk to, so on and so forth. I can let everybody else speak on that as well.
So for me, because I was the one that talked about him today, I felt like him being somebody that was from Chicago, coming to a new place and just trying it out like by word of a friend, I feel like for me that was kind of a similar situation, just going into a new space and being around people that you had never met before. So listening to him tell his story about how it impacted him, how being here and being in a friendly atmosphere with people that were very caring and loving towards him made him feel like he should stay here and continue more work even after he graduated from here, even after his friends that were here had left and moved on to more different careers. He told me that, he could have went back home to Chicago and instantly got a job, but he chose to stick around because he felt like he had developed such great friendships with the people that he met here. So for me, that was like something that I really took into account when I think about like what I plan to do after I graduate from Bethel College.
I know for me personally, when I got the chance to talk to him, he kind of reminded me of my grandfather, honestly. And like the stories that he was telling, you can tell he was very passionate about the school. So it was more so just having the opportunity to sit there and listen to him and just hear his stories. It was heartwarming, honestly. And he just had a lot of good things to say about the school, and the impact that we can obviously see he made on the campus was tremendous. So he was just a very influential person towards the college, but to me personally as well.
Would you guys be willing to tell us a little bit more about CJP? Like, what do you all do? What are your goals?
Yeah. I guess CJP is obvious. Well, I guess it's kind of in the words in a sense, Community for Justice and Peace. But essentially, I guess our goals are to just I guess the first thing we want to do is just kind of get a feel for how the student population feels about Bethel, and then kind of see where change is needed. Other than that, I think we all just kind of come from different walks of life, and we kind of all have an understanding of what Bethel's current environment is like, and I think we all see room for improvement, so we want to just make different efforts to see how we can become a more equitable campus for all people who fall under the line of some level of intersectionality, and just see how we can make campus, I guess, more equitable and inclusive.
We will actually be having an event soon, February 10th, 8:30 p.m. Men's Library Lounge. All of you are invited. You should all come. You can basically we're just going to have a conversation. You can basically about brainstorming how we can make Bethel a more inclusive and equitable space. And yeah, like he said, we're just all about, it's in the name really, justice and peace at Bethel College. It's student-led. And there will be food. So.
This is a quick follow-up. If someone were interested in joining CJP, when are the meeting times? Are people welcome to join? What are the commitments like for that?
That's a great question, student. Meetings are at KipCore at 7 p.m. on Tuesdays. Anybody's welcome to come at any time. And yeah. And we can also Zoom you in if needed. Just give us a heads up. And KipCore is the building that is down the street past the Agape building if you're by the Fine Arts Center.
Let's give another hand of applause to our presenters. I have two quick announcements before I dismiss you. Three, actually. Remember, when I dismiss you, I'd like you to take the chairs, stack them against the walls, and then bring the desks as well and put those next to the walls. If you could do that, that'd be wonderful. One of the reasons I am here at Bethel College is because of George Rogers as well. Tremendously influential person. The reason I say that, when I was in Ohio, one of the elders at our church said, I really recommend that you go to Ohio and work at Bethel College because my great friend and mentor, George Rogers, is there. He said, I am who I am because of George Rogers. So, boy, if you get a chance to meet George and talk with him, it's just a real joy. He's a wonderful, wonderful person and has meant a lot to Bethel College. The other thing I wanted to say is Faith Allen, also influential, a board member, is going to be here on Monday presenting in convocation with some other folks. So make sure you come back on Monday to hear from Faith Allen. And so that'll be exciting as well. Well, before we dismiss, let's give one more hand of applause to these wonderful professors. Thank you. You're dismissed. Please move the chairs out.